What's going on, everybody? Welcome to The Cause. I truly appreciate you being here. My name is Rob, and today we are discussing Book 6 in our 8-book reading series, which is Discourse on Voluntary Servitude by Étienne de La Boétie. So, sorry if I put a little Cajun flair to it, but that's just the best I can do. This book is timely, it's relatable. This book is the result of the past 5 books in our reading series not being taken seriously. So let me give you a little background on Étienne real quick, and then we will move into his book.
Maybe you got lost somewhere, swimming too far off the beach, off the coastline.
Étienne de La Boétie is French, as you can kind of tell by the name. He was born in 1530, and he died relatively young at the age of 32. So as we go through this book, just realize this is not some wise old man dropping this wisdom on us. He was about 22 to 23 years old when he wrote this, which I find just fascinating because my mind at the age of 22 was just rotten mush. He was born to an aristocratic family, but he was orphaned at a young age, and Étienne would be raised by his uncle and would receive a law degree from the University of Orleans, or like we like to say in Louisiana, Orleans. He became a judge, and he would be a distinguished poet and humanist. He would translate Xenophon and Plutarch, and he was friends with Montaigne, who we will meet later in our Harvard Classic Reading series. So we need to note that Martin Luther posted the 95 Theses in October of 1517, so about 13 years before Étienne was born. Now, I can only imagine the Reformation would have a huge impact on his upbringing as the world kind of changed and adjusted to this new form of religious liberty. Tyranny, slavery, and willing submission to both are what this book is centered around. And La Boétie was tolerant to the Catholic and Protestant reconciliation. And we will notice that all the other books in the reading series plays an important role here. The classical education of instilling virtues, understanding the tools to argument, but most importantly, cultivating your identity are essential in keeping the tyrants at bay. You will see all the books we have covered up to this point are pointing us to the destination that we will arrive at if we ever forget who we are. If a society is ever able to wipe out your culture and identity, then you will by default become the slave that submits to the rules of the master who has exchanged your liberty for power over you. But as we will read, you gave it up yourself willingly for comfort, ease, and convenience. I will link some sources below on La Boétie if you want to know more about him. But let's go ahead and move into his short book, Discourse on Voluntary Servitude. It's a remarkable work for a 22-year-old. The book is broken up into 3 parts, and I will obediently go through them in order. So, all 3 parts start off with a quote. So, part 1 starts off with a quote that I think is timely in more ways than one, which I will explain afterwards. He says, "The fundamental political question is why do people obey a government? The answer is that people tend to enslave themselves, to let themselves be governed by tyrants. Freedom from servitude comes not from violent action, but from the refusal to serve. Tyrants fall when the people withdraw their support." Now, this was written 150 years before the American Revolution, and we kind of see his point. They decided to no longer serve the master, but the refusal brought on the violent action. To assume that just by refusing that there will be no violence, in my opinion, is a little naive. Must we forget or never even be taught the Revolution of Saint-Domingue? No good outcome can be gained, at least from my shallow history of knowledge, without a little pain. And now this book appears to demonize governments, especially governments founded upon tyranny. But as we saw with Rousseau's social contract and the founding of America, if you have a group of men living together, there will be within time a government of some sort. So it's not that government is bad, it's that the people who form the government lose control of it by distraction, entertainment, personal ambition, lack of caring, and becoming too comfortable over time. Because of this, division, dissatisfaction, cultural differences, clashes, and other issues start to arise. We relinquish control and put faith in organizations, institutions, and politicians, and corruption seeps in, and tyranny slowly roots itself into everything. Education, the environment, policies, and foreign dealings. The list goes on. So it stands when Étienne says, "A weakness characteristic of humankind is that we often have to obey force." And he goes on into the cowardice behind this, which I want to bring up. I hate to think I'm a coward, it's not something I feel anyone really wants to admit, but when I think about the things that I put up with in a society that past generations would have gone to war over, I can't help but feel that tingle of cowardice that resides deep down inside. His words, if reflected on, will make you ponder who you really are, if you allow them to sink in. At this point, he goes into a little history of the Greeks and the Persians, the Greeks fighting for their liberty, and some amazing lines are mentioned. But not all portions of the population of a state or a country value liberty the same. Sometimes it's polarized, and the next lines show this. To achieve the good that they desire, the bold do not fear danger. The intelligent do not refuse to undergo suffering. It is the stupid and cowardly who are neither able to endure hardship nor to vindicate their rights. They stop at merely longing for them, and lose through timidity the valor roused by the effort to claim their rights, although the desire to enjoy them still remains as part of their nature. Well, what is this nature of human rights? It is the belief that we were created free. By nature, we are bound to no man outside of our parents. But society slaps this notion across the face, and history is replete with blacking the eye of this notion. He kind of asked the question at this point, how does nature fail to place in the hearts of some people a burning desire for liberty? And I've met them. You've probably met them. There is no desire to think beyond what they are told. It's a blessing so great that if nature does not provide it, then evil starts to crop up. The taste and sweetness of liberty, once in servitude, becomes dull and lost to memory. And I love this next part here. He says, liberty is the only joy upon which men do not seem to insist, for surely if they really wanted it, they would receive it. And apparently they refuse this wonderful privilege because it is so easily acquired. I disagreed on the easily acquired part whenever I first read this book, but it will make more sense in a bit. Some things that are easily acquired, we are terrified to act on. And he goes on, poor, wretched, and stupid peoples. Nations determined on your own misfortune and blind to your own good, you let yourselves be deprived before your own eyes of the best part of your revenues. Your fields are plundered, your homes are robbed, your family heirlooms taken away. You live in such a way that you cannot claim a single thing as your own, and it would seem that you consider yourselves lucky to be loaned your property, your families, and your very lives. And at this point, our minds start reflecting on how this relates to us. Who is committing these acts and deeds against us, making us pay all these taxes to support all these programs that we don't even agree with, and depriving us from things we love? He catches us off guard with the next jab by saying, you are to blame. Where has he acquired enough eyes to spy upon you, if you do not provide them yourselves? How can he have so many arms to beat you with, if he does not borrow them from you? The feet that trample down your cities, where does he get them, if they are not your own? How does he have any power over you except through you? And how would he dare assail you if he had no cooperation from you? What could he do to you if you yourselves did not connive with the thief who plunders you? If you were not accomplices of the murderer who kills you? If you were not traitors to yourselves? And at this point in the book, I vowed I wasn't paying any more taxes and that I considered it theft. But then that feeling of cowardice I mentioned, which I cloak in justification, starts to kind of poke at me because I have been conditioned to obey. And he ends this part in a very frank and clear statement. Resolve to serve no more, and you are at once freed. Something so simple can be so hard. So let's move into part two. Part two starts off with this. Liberty is the natural condition of the people. Servitude, however, is fostered when people are raised in subjection. People are trained to adore rulers. While freedom is forgotten by many, there are always some who will never submit. The movie Braveheart kind of popped in my head here in the last scene where he's being tortured, where some people will scream freedom, but people are trained to adore. I love that line, because we are. We will support and adore the most atrocious individuals as long as they support our party, our beliefs, and our ideologies. So much so that it taints what we have imagined liberty to be. You are told what to believe, and so scared to question the truth because we have exchanged our liberty for toleration, confused truth with propaganda, and Lord knows we have misplaced reason, and logic is nowhere to be found. He says, "Let us therefore understand by logic, if we can, how it happens that the obstinate willingness to submit has become so deeply rooted in a nation that the very love of liberty now seems no longer natural." I have started to view liberty as one's convictions and one's personal identity. The individual who is not defined by how society says he or she should live is truly free. The one man standing with his hands crossed, grimace on his face, while the crowd around him bows down to tyranny. That individual is not common. The true lover of liberty is rare, and he is never part of the majority because the true freedom requires a lot of work to maintain, and let's be honest, untrained human nature is just lazy. To society, he treads the line between bravery and crazy, but deep down we all think we would be this man or woman, that one individual who bucks the waves of sin and tyranny. But that cloak of justification that we overlay cowardice with will poke holes in our thoughts, and shamefully, it allows some people's hands to rise in unison with tyranny. He continues with a line which hints at the importance of education. For the present, I think I do not err in stating that there is in ourselves some native seed of reason which, if nourished by good counsel and training, flowers into virtue, but which on the other hand, if unable to resist the vices surrounding it, is stifled and blighted. Bussy, a 22-year-old young man, is stating the same exact thing Lewis mentioned in The Abolition of Man. He is restating what Plato would write about in The Republic and what Dr. Livingston wrote about in The Defense of Classical Education. If the education system does not teach the importance of morality and virtue, then you are not getting an education. You are receiving training for a job. You are learning the skills to work and to survive in a nation, to participate in the economy. And nothing is wrong with training and job skills. We just need to call it for what it is. But without the education and training in virtue, understanding of morality, development of character, your search for identity, you will find yourself working and not understanding who you are. And if you do not have an identity, you will struggle with clarity, not free to live as you once did. He says, since freedom is our natural state, we are not only in possession of it, but have the urge to defend it. He provides some great examples and images of animals in captivity, elephants that have been beaten into submission, and a small little rope tethers it to a pole, the ox yoked and forced to labor, the caged bird who laments and sings no more, Miss Angelo's words forgotten, all denatured. But can man be denatured? What evil chance has so denatured man that he, the only creature really born to be free, lacks the memory of his original condition and the desire to return to it? I think it is important for us to educate ourselves on what denatures a man, what causes us to lack the empathy, the respect, and allows morality to decay. When we no longer have respect for one another, and instead of caring for others, we only care for the self. We take the focus off of what is real and place the focus on the lie of believing that life is for you to be happy, that a single individual holds the key to your happiness. To fall into all the pleasures of the world is to be denatured. The pleasures of the world form the shackles by which you are controlled. And he then goes on to say that most people would rather be guided by reason instead of the whims of a single man. And he jokingly excludes the Israelites as they requested to have a king. But I kind of disagree with him here. It takes a special education in society, or even like a culture, to truly want to live free. Most societies who let the human natures of fear, security, and safety override reason will find themselves wanting to be ruled over and guided by something or someone. Humans, I feel, naturally want a guide or a protector if raised in a certain way. And in my opinion, history shows this as well. This ties into the next point he brings up, because we often blame the tyrant for taking power, but it is often handed over by we the people. So listen to this one. When they lose their liberty through deceit, they are not so often betrayed by others as misled by themselves. I love that point. If we take extreme ownership of the situation, the power was given, not taken in most circumstances. Now there comes a point when the large kitty is out of the bag and once the lion is let loose, the only way to put the lion back in the bag requires destroying it. But we will all soon forget how great freedom tasted, as he says next. It is incredible how as soon as a people becomes subject, it promptly falls into such complete forgetfulness of its freedom that it can hardly be roused to the point of regaining it. Shame will cause us to lie to ourselves, and sometimes we justify the evil so we do not have to confront the truth that we may have been deceived, and this can birth resentment, and you may even detest that which you loved before and support the evil that now rules over you. We forget truth and replace it with a lie because it is easy to justify lies, and lies postpone the pain of resentment to some future date. And he goes on to discuss how we come to be content with slavery and mentions a phrase that is just amazing: habituation to subjection. As generations go on, the seed of content can even sprout in the worst of scenarios. People can get accustomed to their reality of darkness. And Étienne says, one never pines for what he has never known. Longing comes only after enjoyment and constitutes amidst the experience of sorrow the memory of past joy. If you allow the natural world to consume you with pleasures, and you lose control of the ability to regulate your desire for pleasurable things, then your love for worldly pleasures becomes the reason for your voluntary servitude. There is a dilemma with freedom that I have noticed throughout history. Liberty usually comes about after a great struggle, a revolution, or even a migration of people. But true liberty allows individuals to indulge themselves, and the education of how to live appropriately and keep the indulgences in check is just as essential as the liberty itself, because that is the blood that keeps liberty alive. It is the selfishness of liberty which causes it slowly to fade. If our liberty is not educated and shaped to be moral, valor and virtue slowly fade, and liberty is slowly exchanged for political promises. And examples from history is provided here, and it's so good. I looked it up just to verify, because this book is kind of old, and found it somewhat to be true with minor differences contradicted by Herodotus. So I'll just kind of summarize it. The city of Sardis revolted against Cyrus the Great. Time frame is around 550 BC for context. Instead of sending an army in to wipe them out, Cyrus subdued them basically through bread and circus. They set up some brothels and games, and they passed laws where they had to teach their sons music and dance, and they taught them basically how to indulge in the world and removed anything which would build character and virtue. Instead of teaching the boys the ways of the sword, it was mandated to teach them commerce and shopkeeping. Quickly, they became effeminate, and the fear of revolt went away. Everyone likes to ask the question, how did we go from revolting against a small little tea tax to paying nearly 40% of our salaries to some form of tax? All the games you watch, the food you indulge on, the pleasures of life keep you chained to your love of self-gratification. That was just the beginning. Entering the scene, Act 2 is TikTok and social media, programmed by those in control to shape your mind and body as they see fit. And you will gladly pay that fee as long as you don't have to face the truth. Étienne says this next, which just makes you think. And he's talking about you and me here with our pleasures and how we give up liberty. Truly, it is a marvelous thing that they let themselves be caught so quickly at the slightest tickling of their fancy. Plays, farces, spectacles, gladiators, strange beasts, medals, pictures, and other such opiates. These were for ancient peoples the bait towards slavery, the price of their liberty, the instruments of tyranny. But these practices and enticements, these ancient dictators so successfully lulled their subjects under the yoke that the stupefied peoples, fascinated by the pastimes and vain pleasures, flashed before their eyes, learned subservience as naively, but not so credibly, as little children learn to read by looking at bright picture books. The bright picture book is now in your pocket. The tyrant throws you a tax return and we all go wild with support, free housing, free food, free education. The tyranny purchases our obedience with our own stolen money. And if you get out of line, the black boots are coming, and they are paid for by you. We then move into the last part, which is part 3. He starts off with this. If things are to change, one must realize the extent to which the foundation of tyranny lies in the vast networks of corrupted people with an interest in maintaining tyranny. Who has an interest in maintaining the tyranny? We should all be asking that question and searching. But one must be willing to look. One must be honest about where they should look for tyranny as well. Maintaining tyranny is easy when the sheep are silent and obedient. And it's easier when the sheep are divided against issues that our media pours into our eyes and minds through pixels and sound. And like he mentions, there are many people that want to maintain tyranny. In short, when the point is reached through big favors or little ones, that large profits or small are obtained under a tyrant, there are found almost as many people to whom tyranny seems advantageous as those to whom liberty would seem desirable. Money, money, money. It will make you give up your entire existence to pursue something that can only bring you material satisfaction. The advantages of supporting a tyrannical ruler are supported on such a weak foundation that the slightest disagreement breaks down trust. Jesus said, "Give back to Caesar what is Caesar's." Do not allow the gifts and the handouts of the tyrant to purchase your loyalty, or else you will give yourself over to him. Listen to the next line and think about that. Still, men accept servility in order to acquire wealth, as if they could acquire anything of their own when they cannot even assert that they belong to themselves. There are multiple ways to be snared into this trap of servitude, and serving is not bad if that which you serve is truthful and honest and good. But if you ever serve a lie, you will spiral into the unhappy world of self-gratification by any means necessary. Étienne brings up that the tyrant is never really loved, nor does he love. And because the tyrant is incapable of love, it is for this reason he loses his own spirit and eventually impoverishes the nation. A tyrant can never be a man who is capable of loving. Étienne lets his pen flow here in anger at how we as humans can sit around and tolerate and appease and clap for a tyrant. Hopefully I can match his emotion. Good God, what suffering, what martyrdom all this involves. To be occupied night and day in planning to please one person, and yet to fear him more than anyone else in the world. To be always on the watch, ears open, wondering whence the blow will come. To search out conspiracy, to be on guard against snares, to scan the faces of companions for signs of treachery, to smile at everybody and be mortally afraid of all, to be sure of nobody, either as an open enemy or as a reliable friend, showing always a gay countenance despite an apprehensive heart, unable to be joyous, yet not daring to be sad. We must be careful going forward. The lessons provided in these old texts explain how people lived so well at one point, and within the snap of a finger, life changed. We no longer can see the good in people, but only the bad. We judge based on propaganda, and we hate based on lies. And we lie to ourselves to feel better about the mess we got ourselves in. You may think the responsibility does not lie with you, but you have been conditioned to believe just that. If you are not responsible for your own liberty, the tyrant has no issues with accepting that responsibility for you. You will have to answer for either yourself or for your tyrant. And hopefully, we choose wisely. Thank you so much for being here, and I truly hope you enjoyed my review, my take on the Discourses on Voluntary Servitude. It's a great book. I highly suggest you read it. It's large print. It's less than 40 pages, so you can knock it out pretty quick. Reflect when you read. Think about how fast things can change, how much has changed in just a few years. Enjoy the present. Learn to discern, and please subscribe and leave a review. I truly enjoy the community that is forming around this channel, and I love hearing from you guys in the comments. So yeah, I just want to thank you all so much for being here. I feel truly blessed to be able to do this, and I love it. I love making these videos. So please subscribe and leave a review or a comment, as it helps the algorithm push these episodes. We have 2 books left in the reading series, and then I will announce what we will be reading next. So very excited about the future plans. So read some amazing books, sip some fantastic coffee, and I will see you very, very soon. I love you all. And as always, stay blessed.
All the dreams I locked out, I'll go and find. It's good, good, good,